Hello, I'm Beth Joey and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, welcome. This is the channel where I paint my face, turn my camera on and talk about some books. This is the book tag where you find out I've lied. This is the book tag that exposes me. This is the Contradictions Book Tag. I have seen quite a few YouTubers do this over the past couple of weeks, so I thought I would once again join the bandwagon very late and give it a go as well and just run through some books that I didn't expect to like or didn't like or anything like that. So yeah, let's get right into it. The first contradiction is I love this genre, but I didn't like this book. For the genre, it is like mystery, it is like closed door, isolated mysteries, and for this book, One by One by Ruth Ware. Now, I loved the idea of this book, which is essentially there is an app called Snoop that allows you to tune in and listen to in real time what anyone else is listening to. So for example, if you have Lady Gaga's profile saved to your account, you can log into her Snoop and find out in real time what she's listening to. The company is facing a sort of pivotal moment where they're going to decide whether they want to IPO, aka they want to go public, they want to, grow the business, or whether they sell, take their profits and move on. They all decide to go on a sort of company retreat where the shareholders at the end will sort of vote on which option they want to take, and there is one particular shareholder named Liz, I believe, who sort of saved the company at one point, and her vote is the deciding factor. So both teams want to convince her to vote on their side, but she's always felt very ostracized and very separate from the rest of the group, so she doesn't know where to go, and then all of a sudden people start dying. And then a massive avalanche falls and everybody's trapped in this ski chalet with a murderer and no one knows who it is, so you have to sort of figure that out as the book goes along. Now, one of the big reasons why I didn't like this is because it was very obvious to me throughout the entirety of the book who the murderer was, so it didn't surprise me. And then the second thing was, once the murderer was announced, there was like another 100 pages or so left in the book where it was like trying to escape them and trying to get out of the situation that they were in. And I reckon that it was just too much. It was dwelled on way too much. I love like murder mysteries, and I just really didn't like this one. The next contradiction that we have is I rarely read this genre, but I liked this book. And the genre is autobiographies or biographies or non-fiction just in general. I do not tend to read non-fiction, but Diddly Squat by Jeremy Clarkson. I just ran through my thoughts on this book in a previous video, my last 5 book reading update, so I will link that above. But essentially it follows Jeremy Clarkson as he decides that he wants to be a farmer and then realizes very quickly that he has no idea how to do farming. He has to learn quickly all the ins and outs of, frankly, a very dangerous career path, guided by a large and mostly willing team, including girlfriend Lisa, Caleb the tractor driver, cheerful Charlie, Ellen the shepherd, and Gerald, his head of security and drystone waller. This essentially is a number of articles or sort of little mini stories that Jeremy has written which comment on political environment, that comment on regulatory red tape, that comment on the wilding and the importance of preserving the environment and everything like that, and it takes you through how bad he is at all of it, frankly. So yeah, it's a fascinating book. I do not like nonfiction, but I loved this. The next contradiction that we have is I love this trope, but I didn't like this book, and that is City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. City of Bones by Cassandra Clare, the big reason why I didn't like it is because it felt very young, very immature, and there were just a few. It was just kind of boring. Like, there was nothing really driving me through it. It felt very immature. But the trope that surrounds this book is essentially the sort of coming into power trope. But the book is about Clary Frey, who's seen things, vampires in Brooklyn and werewolves in Manhattan, irresistibly drawn to the Shadow Hunters, a secret cadre? I don't know how to pronounce that. Of warriors dedicated to ridding the world of demons. Clary encounters the dark side of New York City and the dangers of forbidden love. And then I do love a good star-crossed lover and forbidden love trope as well. The next contradiction we have is I hate this trope, but I loved this book. And hate's a very strong word, okay? I don't like the enemies to lovers trope, but I definitely don't hate it. A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Anyone who knows me knows I love Sarah J. Maas. I love most of the books that she's written, and I love ACOTAR. But I don't love enemies to lovers. This follows Feyre, who is essentially doing everything she can to just keep her family alive. She lives in the human world, and there's sort of like the Fey world that is separated from her world by this wall. In an attempt to feed her family, she kills a wolf, but it's the wrong wolf. It is the friend of the High Fey Lord of the Spring Court, and so to seek sort of retribution for this murder, he decides that in a Beauty of the Beast style turn of events, Feyre now has to live with him, He takes her away from her family, and it's sort of like an enemies to lover thing from there. I'm losing my words. So anyway, I don't love the enemies to lovers trope, but Sarah J Maas does do it quite well. My next contradiction, which is an author I love, Sarah J Maas, but I didn't like this book, Throne of Glass. I didn't really like this series, frankly. It's one of her earlier series, I believe, if not her first series, and it's fascinating, don't get me wrong, but I like fantasy romance, and it's not big on the romance in the first book, and then it's just very long, very intense. There's a very big cast of characters, there's a lot to get your head around, and it's a lot more brutal than I would personally enjoy. It essentially follows Celaena Sardothian, who is imprisoned at a prison camp in her kingdom because she is an infamous assassin, and she is given the opportunity to get out of the camp and come and fight in a competition which will decide who the king's champion will be. But then all of her competitors start dying, and she essentially has to just stay alive, really, and chart a path through the sort of court intrigue and the relationship that she's building with the prince and then the head of security, I think he is. But yeah, I didn't love this book, and I think I'm kind of cheating on this one because this contradiction is I previously disliked a book by this author, but I loved this book. The previous book that I disliked is Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas, and I loved House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas. This follows Bryce Quinlan, who is a half-fae woman living in Crescent City, and she's a bit of a party girl, her and her friends, and then one night all of her friends are murdered by this sort of mysterious being, and then I think a year or two later the murders start up again, and she is tasked with finding out what's going on, who this murderer is, but she is also given a bodyguard to help her in this because she is the daughter of the fae, like, prince, lord, whatever, in Crescent City, and this is Hunt Athala, who is a fallen angel enslaved in Crescent City by the Asteri. So as the two try to solve the murder, they are thrust into a deeper underbelly that they never knew existed in Crescent City, and a political, like, manipulative environment that they had no concept of, and it is a fascinating book. I loved it, and I really enjoyed House of Sky and Breath, the second book as well. Not quite as much, but the ending, my god, the ending. Check out my vlog for my reaction to the ending. It was nuts. The second last contradiction is I love this cover, but I didn't like this book, and this is After Love by Tanya Byrne. Here is the cover. It's very dynamic, very beautiful. I love the girls on the front and then all like the butterflies around them. I didn't like this book. It felt very insta-love. It felt very immature. It was just completely unrealistic in a lot of ways. I hated how this one character, she dies at the very beginning and she goes, you know, complete spirals about how that might impact her relationship. But in terms of her family, she couldn't care less. She's like, I died. Oh no, Poppy will miss me. But my family, yeah. They're fine. I'll be fine. It follows Ash, who dies unexpectedly in a car accident, and she's the last person to die that year, which means she is brought into this like secret group of Grim Reapers who are sort of sitting in the in-between. And that basically means that she has to help the souls who have passed away, you know, cross over to whatever their afterlife is, and we don't know what that means. They just have to help them get there. But right before Ash died, she fell in love with a girl named Poppy, and she is desperately missing her. And the problem with being a Reaper is that the people that you love don't recognize you unless they're just about to die. And then Poppy recognizes her. And so she's thrust into like trying to protect Poppy from her inevitable death, trying to find out what that death's going to be, and also trying to fix things so that Poppy can either join her or she can join Poppy in the afterlife. And yeah, like I said, it was very intense, very insta-love. I get that everything's very dramatic in high school. Both these girls are high school based, but this girl literally like upends her entire afterlife for one person who she met like one time, dated for 6 months. And I'm like, that's a lot, like, you're young. And the very last contradiction is I hate this cover, but I love this book. And that is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas. I don't like the color green. It's green. And I don't like the color yellow. The title's yellow. And I don't like them together. I'm falling over. I don't like this cover. I like the original covers better. I think this is very boring. I do kind of like the crow thing, raven, I don't even know what that is. I do kind of like that on the front. It's kind of cool, the illustration, but it's just, I don't like it. It's boring. I'm not going to go through what this book is about because it's a spoiler, and you've already heard it a little bit back when I went through ACOTAR what ACOTAR is about, so I'm not going to do that again. But yeah, this is the last book in this list. That is the Contradictions book tag. I hope you enjoyed. Please do give it a go yourselves, or let me know in the comments down below what your responses to all these questions are. I'll leave in the description box all the questions so that you can sort of copy and paste that into the comment section. Also, let me know if you've read any of these books, loved them, hated them, all that sort of thing. As always, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to be notified when I release new content, and I will see you lovely people in my next video. Bye!